Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey here, and today we're going to be revealing Usain Bolt's leg cycle secrets, going in depth into really 5 key moments of the leg cycle. And the goal is going to be to help you get better at really 3 main things. The 3 main things are going to be help you with your stride length, be able to increase how much distance you're covering per step, make it so you can more effectively cycle your leg. Obviously, it's a video on the leg cycle, so we want to be more efficient with the leg cycle. And just to give you an idea of what efficient means, I looked up the exact definition. It's the maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort. So you want to have an efficient leg cycle is really important to make it so you can run faster. And then the last one is going to be an effective foot contact time. Essentially what effective is to the greatest or highest degree. So both of those things, both the leg cycle as well as the foot contact time, it's important to not just be fast or not just be quick. I don't want to use those words because I don't think that's what the main goal is. It's really to be powerful with the leg cycle. We want to be able to generate a more force in the ground. Usain Bolt generates over 1,000 pounds of force into the ground. Him being about 200 pounds, that's about 5 times his body weight of force is being generated into the ground in each step. It doesn't happen because he's just being very quick. He is being powerful with each one of those steps, but he's also not wasting a lot of time, wasting a lot of energy, which is why efficiency ends up being important. And that's why we're doing Usain Bolt, by the way. I know he's tall. There might be some people watching this that say, oh, well, my leg cycle isn't like Usain Bolt's leg cycle, and that's fine. You don't have to be running just like Usain Bolt. A lot of people are not going to run just like Usain Bolt. He covered 100 meters in 41 steps. No one really is even close to being able to do that. It's about 3 steps less than what the average Olympic sprinter is getting, probably more close to 5 or 6 steps less than what the typical 100-meter steps are when you look at just like an average runner. From the video, what we'll get into is going to be 6 exercises or 6, I think, important parts of your body that you want to be able to work on. I want to make this very simple for you to then be able to improve your leg cycle. So not only do we want to inform you on what is it that you need to be able to do within the leg cycle and some of the mistakes that you want to avoid when it comes to what Usain Bolt's doing, but also give you some exercises and some things that you could work on in order to get those particular parts of your running better. So we'll go ahead and hop right into it here, go over those 6 main parts. The first thing that we're going to look at is going to be the foot strike. So we're looking at the right foot here as it's coming through and as it's striking the ground. That is going to be the foot strike. Again, we want to be able to create a large amount of force with the foot strike. That's not going to obviously just come out of the ankle. That's also going to be coming from the leg. And there's a lot of momentum that goes into this. I think that an important part to consider here is how can we effectively accelerate and get to a top speed and get to a body position that makes it so then you're able to generate the most amount of force into the ground and be effective with that force. And so that's a thing to consider. We're not going to go too much into that. We're going to be talking about the leg cycle today, but I do think that understanding all of this is important when it comes to being able to really reap the benefits of what this video is going to provide. So we're looking at how the foot is striking the ground. We have a super slow motion video here, and we can see he's landing much more on the front part of the foot. We can see a common mistake that I see are really 2 different things that are happening here. One is that the leg is turning out to the side, and the other is that we're landing too far back in the foot. And this is a common thing that I see with a lot of different athletes. We want to be able to be forceful with this foot strike, but we also want to be landing at the right part of your foot. So if you're trying to generate a lot of force and you're just going straight down and you're landing and you're keeping your heel down into the ground or landing with the heel down in the ground, then you're not being effective with your foot strike. We want to be able to be effective with it, which means that we're landing on the front part of the foot. We're maintaining that heel up off the ground, which makes it so then we could have that very quick foot contact time. So first thing is the foot strike. The second thing is going to be the push off, making it so we're able to generate a lot of force in the push off. And this is really where the leg cycle comes into play, right? So we're looking at the foot strike, we're looking at the push off. Those are going to be 2 big parts of the leg cycle. Kind of the end of the leg cycle is the foot strike. The beginning of the leg cycle is the push off. And I started with the foot foot strike just because I think there's some important things that we want to be able to consider when it goes into how we're pushing off. If we land in this position, then when we get into the push off, we're not going to be able to get ourselves into the right angle. So you can see with Usain Bolt, as he's pushing off, he's getting all of his weight into that front big toe where he's getting that heel up, and then the push off is happening from that position, which makes it more of a vertical push off. So what a common mistake is, and one of the exercises we're going to work on, is just going to be the range of motion within the big toe, the range of motion within the ankle, because we can see here with this athlete, the push off is happening with that heel a lot lower. And this is one thing that I would say is such a big predictor of top speed. I could watch somebody run. I could tell you if you're going to be fast or you're not going to be fast just by seeing how are you pushing off. Will give you so much information in terms of how much force you're able to generate into the ground and how much time you're going to be spending into the ground, which are two really important parts of being able to run fast. So getting this heel all the way up at push off is an important part of being able to have a great leg cycle. So that's number 2 of the 5 things. Okay, first one, foot strike. Second thing, push off. Number 3 is going to be knee bend. So once this foot comes off the ground, what you want to be able to do is bend the knee, and we begin the process as well of the leg lift. But really, we want to focus on the knee bend happening here because that's what is important when it comes to being able to maximize your stride length. Okay, so this particular athlete isn't bad when it comes to the ability to bend the knee. So we're seeing a lot of range right there. Okay, but the issue is there's not much leg lift, so the foot gets a little bit too high and too far behind. What's important here is we want to maintain the foot underneath your hip. You want to really feel the height of the foot, but you also want to maintain that heel coming underneath the hip and not being too much behind the hip. So that's a key kind of differentiation there, is being underneath with the foot in comparison to being behind. What behind looks like is that heel getting kind of even with the butt cheek, where staying underneath would be that heel staying kind of underneath the butt cheek. Okay, it's a small difference, right? We can kind of see where Usain Bolt, where his butt cheek starts and where the bottom part of it is, and we can kind of see the difference here with how that foot ends up being much higher. And really what ends up happening is because the foot is underneath and it's more behind, then the leg lift isn't going to be as effective. Okay, so as we get into this position, when you keep that foot underneath and you maintain the knee bend, now when you lift up the leg, we can lift that up from a position where we're getting much better range of motion here. So we could see with Usain Bolt, and this is really what's most important about the leg cycle, I would say, is what we're talking about here. So what we're seeing with Usain Bolt and, this athlete is as he's coming through, he's doing a really good job of being able to keep that heel high. So then as the leg comes through, he's able to get a better leg lift, right? So that's really the goal here, is how can we maximize the leg lift? Way to be able to kind of look at that would be, I would say, when that foot gets underneath your knee, what kind of angle are you in with the thigh? The idea is the better we could be at being able to keep the knee up as effective as we can, it's going to help us in being able to reach out. So having good foot strike will make it so then you have better push off. When you have a better push off, then you'll have a more effective knee bend. When you have a better knee bend, then we'll be better with the leg lift. And then when you have a good leg lift, then we'll get into, which is the last one, the 5th one, which is knee extension. So because of the lack of control here, we don't get great extension, which then makes it so then we don't get a great foot strike, right? When we look at Usain Bolt, he's getting knee extension, right? So that would be the opposite of bending. We should know what bending is, right? This is going to be the knee bend. So the knee extend, or the elbow extend, is going to be here. So we're straightening out the knee. Now you could really see the difference in what happened here, which is he kept the heel underneath more. So then he could lift his knee more straight up. So then he could get full extension to then get more effective foot strike. In comparison to limited leg lift, as coming through, so then we couldn't get into leg extension, knee extension, so then we couldn't control foot strike. So you want to be able to get a good amount of time, right? So as soon as your knee bends, you want to be knee bend, leg lift. Those two things are happening as quickly as possible. And to the maximum ability that you can. And then knee extension, I always tell people, like, you almost want to try to slow that moment down, like try to increase the knee extension time as long as you possibly can, right? Really try to get that foot out in front so then you can have a strong and effective foot strike. And that's another part that ends up, I think, being missed is when you get that knee extension, because they'll see some people that will go in and really try to get this extension, but will just reach and won't really work on that foot strike or that pulling of the leg. If you get into this range, but then don't pull with 5 times your body weight of force, you're not going to be able to run that fast. And so that wants to be kind of the concept there in your mind is like, okay, the reason I'm getting to this position, right? Because if you just get here, if you just get to this spot, but you don't utilize that range, then it doesn't really matter. So you got to make sure that you're getting here so then you can pull with your foot down underneath the hip to really maximize the amount of force you could generate into the ground. So those are the 5 keys that are important there. If you need to, write those down. Foot strike, we could say push off, we'll go knee bend, leg lift, and knee extension. Obviously, before we move on here, obviously the main things that we're talking about here are all leg cycle related. So we're not talking about strength, we're not talking about the arm swing, we're not talking about the spine position. All those things are critically important, right? Even head position. Okay, these are all important things that you need to be able to understand. But in this video, we're talking about the leg cycle. So we're just focusing on that. And with the leg cycle, okay, to move on, get you into the 6 exercises, there's going to be 6 things that we want to be able to make sure that we're good at in order to make it so we could have a better leg cycle. The first one, going back into the push off, is going to be the toe range of motion, foot range of motion, ankle range of motion. I can show you an exercise here that is going to work on not only your range of motion through the toe and through the ankle, but also should help you in being able to strengthen that push off. So you want to be able to effectively get to this range. If you can't get to these ranges, by the way, now you know what you need to work on. So that's why we're doing this, is so then you could see, okay, this is something that I need to work on within my running mechanics. And these are some ways to be able to address that. This is the toe range of motion exercise. Make sure that you're working on this not only from a repetition standpoint and a strengthening standpoint, but also for a range of motion and a stretch standpoint. The next one is going to be the knee bend, which is going to just be a quad stretch, just laying on your stomach. Can you get your heel to your butt? So we're really looking for an excessive range of motion here because we want to be able to comfortably get the heel to the butt. Not that we necessarily need to get that much range when we're sprinting, but we want to have a little bit more range than what is going to be needed. Because if we're at maximum range when you are sprinting, then that's when injuries happen. You want to have more range of motion so then the muscle is not fully strength every time you go into your stride. I mean, you really actually won't even be able to do that. Your body will naturally limit itself, so it's not doing maximum on every single step, or else that's, again, how injuries happen. So you have to have more range of motion than what's going to be necessary in the sprint. This is a good way to be able to achieve that necessary quad range in a way that's going to make it so then you can progress within your sprinting. The next one is going to be glute strength. So just how well can you lay on your stomach? Okay, can you lay on your stomach and lift up your hips without anything else? Just being able to lift up your hip. That will give you a good understanding of the range of motion that you have within the glutes, within the lower back, and is an important part of being able to maintain the height necessary when you're going through the leg cycle to get into like the leg lift. So if you don't have the glute range and the lower back range of motion, then you're just not going to be able to maintain a good leg lift. And then also we're not going to be able to get good leg lift if we don't have good hip flexor strength. So there's a combination of range of motion that's happening in the glute, in the hip, with strength that's going to be happening in the hip flexors, which is also kind of the core. So here are some hip flexor strengthening tests that are not only for just the hip flexor strength, but also for the range of motion in the hamstring. So it's a combination hip flexor strength, hamstring range of motion, which will also go into number 5, which is going to be a core exercise with also a hamstring range of motion. So then we can understand how to be able to effectively create length within the hamstring while also working on the core, while also working on the hip flexors. This is going to be really getting into that knee extension part of your running. So how well can you extend your leg is going to be a big part of how much can you really push outwards with the knee. That's going to also be quad strength, right? Because the quad ends up being a part of knee extension, or the main muscle that goes into knee extension. But the range of motion necessary to get into full knee extension comes from a healthy range of motion within your hamstring. And then the last one is going to be working on the pull into the ground, which is going to be, I think, a core. It's going to be a hamstring. It's just going to be a exercise that will help you in understanding how to generate that downward force in a controlled manner and in a way that makes it so then you can feel what that feels like. We want to be able to maintain extension of the knee. We want to be able to pull with the leg without bending in the knee. We want to understand how to strike the ground, utilize the hamstring, utilizing the glute to make it so we're maximizing the amount of force into the ground. So those are 6 key areas within the leg cycle that I think will help break it down to make it so then you can see where within the leg cycle you can make improvements. And just going into the leg cycle is already a form of breaking it down. I think when it comes to making any type of progress, making any type of gain, it's important to break it down into what can I see measurable results in. If it's not measured, then it's going to be a lot harder to improve. And so the thing with the leg cycle is it's very clear when you're looking at somebody and seeing how they run, what their top speed is like, and how they can make improvements. The leg cycle is a great indication of some of the potential mistakes that they're making. Not that strength isn't something, power, acceleration, arm swing, all those things are important, but the leg cycle is a great thing to be able to isolate and work to improve. Just to kind of go in depth into this or take it a step further, I think there's 3 important things that you want to be able to consider as you are starting the process of improving the leg cycle. The first one is don't be afraid of the work. One of the notes that I made here is greatness lies within the work. So it's going to be challenging. For some people, some of the exercises may be more challenging than others. Some things, maybe all of them will be challenging. Maybe for some, all of them will not be challenging. Wherever you are on the spectrum, you want to be able to continue to work on these 6 areas. If you already are, if all these things are fairly easy for you, then you want to be able to continue to work on those to make it so you can maintain health when it comes to your sprinting and also still make improvements. Even if they are somewhat easy, they're not all going to be super easy. They're going to be somewhat challenging. It's not an easy set of 6 exercises, but some might be easier. And, you may be asking, hey, why are things easier for one in comparison to the other? That is going to be different for everybody. Some things are genetically the way that they are. Some things are just based off of some of your habits, some of the things that you've been doing within your training. There's a wide range of different reasons why some things may be more challenging than others. But the point is like, just because it's challenging, don't get upset. You can still be fast even if you have if all 6 of them are challenging. That should actually be something that you say, okay, I'm excited now, right? Now I know I can get a lot faster because if I get good at all 6 of these things, I'm going to improve my speed, which is undoubtedly true. Some of you guys, maybe 2 of these things are going to be challenging. Lean into those 2 and make sure that you get excited about the opportunity to improve. I think that's what it's the main thing here is if you can really see how this is going to help you, now you can have that motivation to continue to work on it. Again, your greatness lies when it comes to your sprinting, your greatness lies in the ability to get better at these things. Period. If you can make these improvements, then that's where you're going to have a great leg cycle. That's why you're watching this video. If you're watching this video to improve your leg cycle. So now that you have the answers, make sure that you put in the work, which goes into number 2, which is just have a plan and follow that plan, execute the plan. So maybe you're going to do these 3 times a week. Maybe you're going to do these 5 times a week. There isn't necessarily a correct answer to that. I would say have a plan for it. What can you do? How often can you do it and stick to it? Right? Don't do it 3 times one week, 5 times the next week, no times the week after, 1 time the week after that, and, come back 6 weeks from now, and now you're not even doing these exercises because you got better with them within the first 3 or 5 times, and now you don't do them anymore. Figure out a plan that you want to be able to stick to it, and I would say you don't need to do it more than 5 times a week, but I would also say don't do it less than 2 times. If you're somebody that's sprinting on a fairly consistent basis, these are exercises that shouldn't be super challenging. You shouldn't be sore from doing these, maybe a little bit in the toe at first, but after you start doing it, you're not going to be sore. It's going to be helpful for you. It could be a great warm up. It could be a great way for you to get prepped for your sprinting so you could already have the ranges necessary for a better leg cycle. And then the last thing, and this is where I'll finish it, is going to be if things don't change within your sprinting, you don't run faster. Let's say you run 11 seconds in the 100 or maybe a 4.8 in the 40, and you continue to run 11 seconds or 4.8, then the issue is not these exercises, is not the lack of information that you have. The issue is you. If you want things to change, you have to change. That is just the fact of reality here. So that's, I think, an important thing to understand is don't blame other people or other things or other circumstances for where you are. If you don't change, then there won't be a change in your running. And again, you could be upset. You could say, oh, well, this other person runs 10 seconds in the 100 and they don't do these exercises, run 4.4 in the 40 and they don't do these exercises. Well, that's them. Are we going in and making comparison about what other people can do or can't do, or why other people are gifted, or why people have certain genetic gifts and why I don't have certain genetic gifts? Like, that could be what you want to think about. You can spend your energy on doing that. I've done that, and it does not get you any better. All that does is just make it so now you're more upset about what your situation is. Your situation is your situation. How can you get better? This is having a plan, giving you a plan to make it so then you can get improvements. If that's what you're here for, these are the things that you need to do. Take action, make a change within your current circumstance, and make it so you can get better, not only in your leg cycle, but in your mind, in your ability to just perform at a higher level in all areas of your life. Again, I would say if you are looking for a clear opportunity to change, regardless if it's the leg cycle or within a maybe diet or whatever the case may be, your strength and conditioning program, you got to make the change. You got to make the adjustment. It's not going to just change without you making the change. So if you're seeing times that are happening over and over and over again, continuing to run a 4.8, continuing to run 11 flat, it's because you are not changing. It has nothing to do with anything other than your ability to change, adapt, get better, and improve. I hope that helps. I hope this information helps. And I hope, more importantly, that you apply it and make it so you can run faster. I'm obviously doing this for free, but if you can, like and subscribe. That really makes a big difference, really helps me out, makes it so I can continue to do videos just like this. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.